So I'd like for each of you to make a 3-minute closing comment. And again, I guess the most powerful thing would be if you could give us the most specific directions, sum up, maybe similar to the first question, what is the final, most direct things you want to say to us and to people who watch this on live stream and on video in 2 years from now, from all your wisdom and all your knowledge, not a motivational speech, but the specific things you'd like us to make sure we're taking from the world of supplements, herbs, plants, medicinal mushrooms. If someone says, tell me what to do, you have 3 minutes. Give us your best and final advice, and then Margaret on emotional health.
I'll take this one up to start. May take 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Obviously, some ingredients are eating organic foods, making sure that you're not taking in, to the best extent that you can avoid them, the pesticides, the fungicides, the herbicides, which are so devastating to health. Devastating to soil, water, farm workers, devastating to the end user, concentrated in foods all over the place, certainly avoiding GMOs, making sure that you're getting the various nutrients that people have mentioned here. But again, along the lines that we're entire whole beings, body, mind, and spirit, I see the happiest people, because I travel all over the world. I go to the communities that other people tell incorrect stories about. Oh, they're all vegans. No, that's baloney. The majority of people in the world eat some forms of meat and fish and dairy, and when you look at the longest lived populations on Earth, they do that too. So yes, plant-based foods are absolutely important. Yes, they're super valuable. I've dedicated my entire career to plants. But if you actually look at the science, if you actually look at the people, they're eating broad, diverse diets. I'm going to tell you all something that some of you will be red-faced with anger about, and some of you will be go, thank God he finally said it. One of the healthiest things you can put in your body is coffee. I have spent decades going deeper into the science of coffee than almost anybody you will meet. I have read thousands and thousands of pages on this. It is very clear that it is one of the most profound health-enhancing elixirs on Earth today. It's the #1 source of dietary antioxidants in the American diet. Granted, that's not an all plant-based diet. We see that the more coffee you drink, except for people who are caffeine intolerant, the greater the reduced risk of a host of common cancers and other health problems. It is extraordinary stuff. Don't stuff it with cream and sugar. That's a big mistake. And don't ruin it by making bulletproof coffee, because that's just disgusting. But also, the happiest people I see are people who have community. When I go to places, native places, and I do so all the time, the conspicuous thing is people who don't have a lot, who give more than you could ever possibly imagine and take care of each other and are fundamentally and happy in ways that so many people in our culture who are feeling isolated and alone will never, ever be happy. And if you're not happy, who gives a crap if your digestion's good? Seriously. Love people. One of the best ways to be more emotionally healthy is to serve people. I've been very, very fortunate and grateful to engage in a lot of projects, free dental. I mean, we had this colossal, almost Fitzcarraldo-like project. For years, we did a free dental boat in the Amazon. Don't get me started on how difficult that was and how absolutely bring tears to your eyes rewarding it was to pull up to riverfront villages and give them the first dentistry they had ever had in their lives entirely free. And more projects, rebuilding schools. And this isn't about, blowing my horn. This is about making connections with people. When you actually help and serve people, what happens is, unless you really, really try hard to be completely emotionally resistant, you wind up making the kinds of connections that we've been talking about. And you get to understand people. And that fosters a greater sense of, goodness between people, and it bridges misunderstanding, and it helps a host of things that vitamins and minerals and all the enzymes and probiotics and wheatgrass can't possibly begin to get to. So in addition to all the foundational physical, dietary, herbal health things, do not forget the wisdom that we have garnered over thousands of years. Meditate, for goodness sake. Sit down, be quiet, calm your mind. You will develop neural pathways that you didn't have before. You'll develop new habits that are healthier. You'll open your mind. You'll expand your vistas. You'll feel more stress-free. You'll feel more solid inside. You'll feel more competent and aware. This will happen. Make sure you spend time with the people you love. You got kids, spend time with them. You got a partner, spend time with them. You got a community, spend time with them. If we do these things, body, mind, and spirit, we will live good, happy lives. If we neglect any of these major components, we will always suffer. Thank you.
I agree.
I knew you would.
So, just to sum up what he was saying, yes. And then looking at, tomorrow I'll cover in my lecture, though, when we see patients is looking at the, all the epigenetic changes that need to occur. Diet's only one of them, right? It's diet, environment, lifestyle, belief system. So these are the things, when you get all those things in order, which he's talking about, many of those, and a lot of these people will talk about their topics this week as well, and some other speakers coming in. It's epigenetics, which is what is the diet, the lifestyle, environment, belief system. This is what turns on gene expression and turns off gene expression. Genes are not just handed down, and diseases are not just passed down. We create the disease by having the same epigenetics as our parents and our grandparents. So that's number one, it's number key. When it comes to answering Stephen's question, which he's so desperately asking for, okay, for inflammation, I'm going to recommend Bosmeric SR. I'll explain it tomorrow. The strongest natural anti-inflammatory, Bosmeric SR. For immune system, Glucan 300. Now, these are all patented. We all have clinical studies. I'll explain why and what yet tomorrow. But Glucan 300 for your immune system, stimulating natural killer cell function. And comparatively to the 60 other products in the market, in vitro and vivo, has been shown to be better than those. I would recommend vitamin D and getting vitamin D tested so that people can be within the range of 50 to 100, which is optimum. And patients that have chronic issues or more serious issues like a cancer, around 70 is where the data will show. And then looking at like a methylated B complex, as which they mentioned before about people having B12 or folate problems in there. After that, then any other supplement should be targeted for a specific reason. And that's why we look at testing, we look at what disease, we look at what kind of diagnosis, we look at the patient, not only from a Western perspective, but we look at from an Eastern perspective, even different body types. And then there's about balancing their body type. It's about giving targeted things if there's deficiencies. So my book will cover a lot of these topics in general, so if you're interested to learn more, please go ahead and inflammationnation.com.
I would like to say that one of the major things that people need to learn to do is to take responsibility for themselves. It's just too easy to be a victim. It's too easy to give our power away to other people, to professionals, and say, well, my doctor or my therapist or this person told me to do it. We need to learn to trust ourselves. We need to learn to trust our feelings. We need to learn to trust our higher guidance, which is here for all of us. And when we are unwilling to take responsibility for ourselves is when we have problems. That's when we get sick, because we're not taking the time to do the reading we need to do, to understand what we each need. We are each very, very different. There is no blueprint for everybody. What works for me might not work for you on the physical level, emotional level, or spiritual level. And so this is what I teach. I teach people how to learn to take responsibility for themselves physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I work with many people who know how to eat well. They know what to do. They know how to exercise. They know how to meditate. They don't do it. They're in resistance. They're afraid that they're going to be controlled by somebody, even by themselves or by spirit. And so they don't do it. And this is a very, very big problem for a lot of people. They know what to do, but they don't do it because they have never learned what it means to love themselves. And this is what is so, so vitally important. When you learn to love who you are, your essence, when you love your body, when you love your higher guidance, it is very, very easy to take the loving actions that you need to take.
So one of our psychotherapists at the Institute, he always says, it's not what you're eating, it's what eating you. And Brigham Young did a study of loneliness, like you mentioned, and they found that if we're so lonely that TV is our only friend, we lose about 15 years, just as bad as smoking or taking big drugs. So community, yes, community is probably the most important that we have people to share, because we have to bounce off our feelings. We have to bounce off our fears and our happiness. And laughter, of course, is number one. I mean, we all love to laugh, don't we? So we need to share that. And you know, it's not so easy to sit and laugh by ourselves. We share it with other people. It's multiplied thousands and thousands. So sharing a lifestyle of plant-based is, to me, and as you saw in my lecture today, of course, it's the number one reason that we can stop climate change. It is number one reason that we are going to stay healthy. And yes, many cultures in the world are following our cultures too, where they probably would have been 99% plant-based. But you know, you're looking at developed world, and you look at them and say, I want to be like them if they're eating these things. And if you look at now what we're doing to the waters in the Amazons, in the rivers, where people are actually digging for gold illegally, but the way that they find gold, they actually put mercury in first. So they totally poison people who have no idea that the fish they're eating, the water and other critters that they might be eating there is full of it. So definitely go on a plant-based diet. You do yourself such a favor, but find community. Find other peoples that are doing that, and you can support each other and find resources in your community. Thank you.
So, being blessed to work with so many people over the time I've done this, I realize that there's 3 letters that everyone aspires to and needs. Personal, P, plus P, passion equals success. So I think what really is missing with a lot of us, when we were brought up, you were told to survive, what kind of job are you going to get, be responsible, and we're not being responsible. And we've lost ourselves, and very few people live a passionate life. But everyone you've ever seen and admired, the most successful people in the world, they all have P plus P equals S. There's not one of these people. So when you think about people like Elon Musk, he has P plus P equals S. When you see Mahatma Gandhi, it was that way. When I see people recover from catastrophic cancers, that's what they have. When I see people who have great marriages, both of the partners have that. So you may say, I'm too old to find my passion, I'm still a little lost. You're never too old. The story I'll tell before I move on is about 30 years ago, we had a woman come to us. She was in her mid-50s at the time, and she was really distraught. And been very successful as an accountant, and her 2 daughters were growing and married, and she was happy with all of that, but she was just really, it's like a vacuum cleaner of energy. When you got near her, you could feel her draining your energy. And I felt bad for her, but I didn't know what to do, and I felt uncomfortable around her. And she then sort of loosened up, and she said, when I was a little girl, I was a prima ballerina right here in New York. My parents had captured me and taken us out of the Holocaust. And she said, although I was destined to be one of the top ballerinas in my generation, they were asking me to come on tours worldwide as a child. My mother kept saying, you can't do that. You're going to starve. You can't possibly survive. And after a while, you won't be able to dance. So you've got to find another, and in a way forced her, she felt they were forcing her into going to school and becoming an accountant. And she was so sad her whole life. And she said, can you help me? And I said, you know, I'm not sure, but why don't you try being a ballerina? Now, she's in her mid-50s. So I don't see her for about 2 years, and she comes and knocks on my door at the Institute. And she was hired by the Washington, D.C. Ballet, the oldest woman at that time in history, and danced worldwide with them. And what a difference in this woman. Not only did her disease go away that she had when she came, the cancer, the bone cancer that spread from her liver, but when she went to Miami and couldn't find a suitable vegan restaurant, she opened that up just for fun. P plus P equals success. Personal passion equals success.
Well, I'm passionate about nutrients. And you know, it's not just the nutrients that you need, but when I analyze diets, what I see is a lot of people are eating things that they shouldn't have, like way too much saturated fat, like way too many pollutants and insecticides and organopollutants from history. So it's a good idea to clean up our diets and try and pare down the things that we don't need before even looking at what we do need. And what we really do need, I think, departing from standard nutrition texts, is carotenoids and tocopherols and polyphenols. Those are the real key things that protect us in food, and they're found in whole plant foods. We certainly do also need the B vitamins, which are there. You mentioned the discovery of vitamin B1 thiamine. That was only discovered when rice was first polished into white rice, because before then, no one had ever had beriberi, which means it hurts in Japanese. So we're going to need some nutrients. Now, the omega-3s, I think, are also very important for depression, for neurotransmitters, for especially the eicosanoids. And if you can nourish yourself well enough, you can make those long-chain polyunsaturated fatty acids from ALA. So make sure to get some flaxseed or hemp seed or chia seed or echium seed or perilla seed, which is as good as flax, in your diet every day. We also definitely need to get most of our nutrition from whole, fresh plant foods, but we may also need to supplement. Now, getting the nutrition is one thing, but getting it into your cells is another, and exercise is really important there. We need to work out. We all need to keep moving our bodies. Yes, you got to get the nutrition to where it's got to go. And as far as brain health goes, we need to move our bodies to pump the blood through our brain, because perfusion of blood into the brain is one of the crucial aspects. And there you have those yogis going upside down. It's not a bad idea either. Bouncing is really good too. So among the different nutrients, we can get pretty much what we need. But if you are fully plant-based, as I am, you want to make sure and get your B12. It's crucial. And as mentioned, most clinical cases of B12 deficiency are in people who do eat meat, but their digestion is not able to absorb the vitamin B12 with intrinsic factor. Other than that, watch your calcium levels. Make sure you get enough. And I like to think about, how do you know if you're getting enough calcium or any other nutrient? Well, there's pretty much 3 ways. You can guess, which is what everybody does. You can analyze your diet and find out how much you're getting, which is what I do. And then you can supplement your diet to make sure you're not missing anything, like little trace minerals like copper, zinc, and manganese or selenium, just to make sure you're getting them. And yes, the form is crucially important, as is the quantity on each one. Food, I think, is the most important factor in health. It does affect your depression. been found in many studies that plant-based diets relieve depression and meat and junk food increase depression. Big surprise, right? So if you can transition more to a plant-based diet, you may be happier and healthier and get less of the bad things and more of the good things. And I certainly agree with the people who are saying organic is best. These days, organic is very easy to access and well worth the tiny extra money. Thank you for letting me help today. It's been a pleasure.
I want to thank the whole panel for doing such a great job. And I want to thank Steve over here for organizing it. In my world, which is very spiritually focused, I see it a little bit from the top down. So I see connecting with our soul as being primary, connecting with God as being primary, and that affecting how we relate to our mind. So that's why I say that the personality, which includes the mind, is a case of mistaken identity. When we're identifying with the deeper truth of who we are, we're less likely to be agitated by our mind. Okay, and how we are in our mind and how we are in our spirit profoundly affects our physiological state. That's been proven over and over again. So by focusing on the mind and the divine, we create the best operating field for our bodies and also for our emotions. Now, where it comes out of focusing on the mind and, in a sense, the spirit, is loving ourselves. And so a fundamental to the whole process is loving yourself enough to want to heal yourself. So I have an approach that kind of covers this, and I call it the natural way of living that leads you to liberation, natural way of living. And that includes 100% vegan diet, at least 80% raw at least, and fasting a week twice a year. It also includes building what we call the chi or prana or nefesh, pranayama, and yoga, which we're doing tomorrow starting at 7, and Tai Chi, Qigong. It includes service and charity, myself, because I don't tell you anything I'm not going to do. We have over 116 different humanitarian programs in 16 different countries. So service and charity opens the heart, helps you connect to other people. That was very eloquently stated. Thank you. And then we look at working with mentors, group support, and so forth. And then meditating. We know that people who meditate just even for 5 years have a physiology that's 15 years younger, okay? And then finally just focusing on God. Now that's the 6 foundations. The sevenfold peace is peace with the body, peace with the mind, and also peace with the family. So do we have the right relationship with our family? Whatever that is, we need to be at peace with it. Peace with the larger community. A lot of chaos in the world today. How do we have the right détente, the right peace with that? Peace with all cultures, from the Native American way, peace with the living planet, peace with the plant world, and peace with the animal world. And of course, vegan helps a big way that, right? And peace with the human cultures. And then we have peace with all the different cultures. Then we're looking at peace with the ecology and peace with God. And we have all those 13 integrated. Then we have a total health program of a way of being. And when we're at peace at that level, because peace is very important for a quiet mind and so forth, then we're able to access the truth of who we are, and we're able to love ourselves enough to want to heal ourselves. Blessings to everyone.
Namaste.